Hello, guys. Can you guys hear me? Let's take this off.
They said, yes.
Just want to make sure everything is working properly over here. How are you guys doing today? My name is Dr. Martin D. Valle, and I am very excited about this project that I'm going to bring to you. And the title of my book is called The Secret. I want to make sure you can see this. The Secret Behind Hurting Black Men. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher. I am a radio host of Rightly Dividing the Word of Truth broadcast ministry, which comes on WWDB every Wednesday from 3 to 4 o'clock. Also participate in the television program Preach the Word Worldwide Network that comes on every Thursday, I believe also from 3 to 4. Married for 5 years to my co-author, Dr. Nicole Valle, who have helped me with this project and coached me along the way from a woman's perspective. We're once again very excited about this project because it is timely needed. We're living in an era where the crime rate is running rapid. Our young kids are killing, and we're talking about the problem, but no one is really looking for the solutions and the cause of the problems. And my ministry is called Rightly Dividing the Word of Truth. And I'm geared to getting to the root of the problem. I believe that when we see a problem, it is the surface of it. It is the manifestation part of it. But the cause sometimes is buried deep behind the soil. We smell the stench of the food, but no one knows where the rotting food is. So rightly dividing the word of truth, we're geared to get to the root, to solve the problem, and to come up with solutions and suggestions. Want to take you into the book. The book speaks mainly about the hurt, the pain, the dysfunction, the struggle of Black men learning how to talk and relate to people through emotions in a healthy way. In most cases, when Black men express their difficulties, their hurt and their discomfort is through anger and wrath, destruction. So we normally see this from a behavioral standpoint when we see the hurt of Black men. It's a reason. The hurt wasn't accidentally put there. It was deliberately put there. Hit us from our ancestors. So there are some things that we have to emotionally deal with. And there is really no emotional solution because we never dealt with it. We dealt with the behavior. We dealt with the reaction, but we really never dealt with the cause. And there is a legitimate cause of why Black men are hurting and really never been taught how to express their pain. So my book starts off with a story about me, who was born and raised in the Whitehall Projects. And my mother did the best she could do. I'm being the oldest sibling. And my mother, being a single mother, raising 2 kids in Whitehall Projects. For the longest of times, I never knew where my father was. I just thought that my father had abandoned us, like the other kids' fathers in the projects. We just never seen a father role model there. And it was a custom. There was no dad. And when dad did come, he was a part-time dad. He came and he went as pleased. As we grew up, we realized that at Christmas times, we had no gifts, we had no toys. And that's where I can say where my secrets first started to develop, because we're hurt and we don't know how to express that we're hurt. We're hurt that our father is not there. We're ashamed that we have no provider there to help us. Could you imagine living in projects? At nighttime, there's shooting, there's killings, and you're the only child and you're the oldest boy. And you take it upon yourself, assuming that you have to protect your mother and your sister. You, probably at the age of 6, is dealing with this situation. At the age of 10, you're dealing with fears that you have to keep to yourself. Those fears that you keep to yourself, they build up over the years through different situations, through different traumas. More fears build up. And the manly thing, so we are taught, is to keep your fears to yourself. In other words, keep your secrets to yourself. I can remember also that being scared to death, wondering if someone would come into my house to harm my mother, to rape my mother. You just think of some of the most craziest thoughts as a child living in a hostile environment. But all the other kids dealt with the same thing. As I begin to grow older, get older, and begin to go to school, I begin to realize that I was expressing a lot of my hurts through my behavior. I was very angry. I was very disobedient. I did not want to be told what to do. I was very rebellious and stubborn. And if you wrap all that together, that is a recipe for disaster. I didn't know that it was hurt. I didn't know that it was pain. I didn't know it. Every so often around Christmas time, we would have people come to our doors from a program to give us toys. And that was a Toys for Tot program that when your father was incarcerated, he can sign up on a list and they would bring you toys to your house. At that time, I didn't know that he was incarcerated. But as I got older, my father would have a furlough pass where they were allowed the men to come home for the weekend. And I was excited to see him. Excited to realize that I did have a father and that he wasn't absent from us because of me, because he didn't like me. That was another stereotype that I put on myself. Maybe my father's not here because I'm worthless. So when I did see him, I was happy. Had no idea that he was only home for a furlough. But when he would leave, I would notice that my mother would be pregnant. And here comes another sibling. For me, it was added pressure because now I had to look out for not just me, my sister, my mother, but now here comes another sibling. This sibling name was Jaquel, my brother. My father would go away and he would eventually come back. And every time he would come home, there you go again, my mother would become pregnant. And here goes another sibling, which to me made my job much more scarier. Did not have a clue what to do or how I would do it. And meanwhile, I'm being raised in an environment of hostility. I didn't understand that this environment of hostility at some point in time was beginning to have an impact on me. Trying to figure out how would I protect my family. And then the instruments, the tools around me was nothing but hostility, hatred, bitterness, and misery. I was building up components within myself of hurt, frustration, dealing with rejection, dealing oftentimes with outbursts of rage. In my day and time, rage was becoming a bully, starting fist fights in school, being very disrespectful. Today, rage, same rage, they just have other tools guns, quick to kill you in a split of a second over a disagreement, over a parking spot, over a simple argument. Rage systematically comes in. Being exposed to that and understanding why is no one trying to deal with the root of all of this hurt, all of this anger, all of this pain. Why is no one dealing with the cause of this? So I said to myself, I'll take a pencil and a paper and I'll begin to write my emotions. And that's how the secret of hurting Black men was birthed. When I begin to evaluate how we begin to grow, these same friends of us got introduced into selling drugs. Now, I didn't know that I was good at hustling or I was good at budgeting. And I became good at that because I had to shovel snow to get sneakers. I had to go to the supermarket and carry grocery bags from the supermarket to people's cars. I had to learn how to take my mother money that she gave me to get her haircut and save that. And I became a great budgeter. When I've got my first job at Brooklyn Bagels, I've learned the skill of working and saving money, which was good. But if you mix this recipe together, budgeting money, living in a dysfunctional neighborhood, having the responsibility of a grown man, even though I'm just a child, we now have a lot of emotional, mental dysfunction. My heart was in the right place. The skills was given to me for survival, but it was the recipe for disaster. Because when you add in the environment and peer pressure, eventually I became a drug dealer. Not because I wanted to be a drug dealer. Not because it looked exciting, because it was very scary. But I felt as though I had no other options. Because every time my father came home for a visit, he would leave and deposit another child. So you put me in that environment and understanding that the frustration and the tension is building up. And now the environment is getting into me and I become the drug dealer. I'm the drug dealer that knows how to budget money. I'm the drug dealer that knows how to store. So I became very successful in doing that. But I still was an emotional wreck because in doing that, I had expressed a lot of my hurt and a lot of my dysfunctions on people that was around me. The one thing I could say about is my mother would go to church. And every so often, my mother would need a ride. And as I would take her to church, I would hear what the pastor would say. Now, you have to understand that being a big-time drug dealer, I'm dealing on a very high level. I'm dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm dealing with power. I have the power to get people hurt. I have the power to forgive. I have the power to do a lot of things. People are coming to me for favors. I am making very powerful decisions at a young age. At the age of 14, I'm indoctrinated in a game. At the age of 14, I'm indoctrinated in a worldly system that cares for no one else. Their morals and their emotions are completely different from mainstream emotions. But it was the gift of God. It was the power of God. And just taking my mother to church on Sundays and listening to the man of God speak about principalities. For me, the principality talk was very important because I was living it. And he was talking about what I was living. I knew I had powers. I knew that if I said something, it would be carried out. It reminds me of the story in the Bible where Jesus was walking and the citron sent for Jesus and said, my servant is dying. And Jesus is saying, I'm going to go to my servant's house. And the citron says, listen, Jesus, I'm a man under authority and a man over authority. I tell a man to go, he goeth. I tell another man to come, and he come. He says, Jesus, you don't have to come. Just speak the word. If you are who you are, then according to your word's sake, my servant will be healed. So I understood a lot about Jesus from a boss perspective. So when the preacher would begin to tell me about Jesus giving us power to tread over serpents and scorpions and over all the powers of the enemy, the powers of the world that was working in me, I tested it against the powers of Jesus. So sometimes I would hear my mom pray and everything in me would say, don't go in there. And I would say, why? I have no fear. At this time, I've been indoctrinated in this drug game long enough to where I didn't fear anything except me. And so when I would hear her pray under the anointing of God, I would be scared and everything in me would be scared and I would run away. In other words, I would run back down the steps or tiptoe so I don't disturb her, because I never knew if she would call me. I'd try to get that olive oil and lay hands on me. So I slid on out the door softly and gently. So I began to understand that there was another power working. And maybe this God that my mom was serving wasn't powerless after all. Maybe he was just that powerful. And so when my mom offered for me to take her to church, I heard the preacher. He preached about principalities. And the Lord would begin to minister to me. So I understood the lifestyle that I was in. So I never got high on drugs, because my purpose of being a drug dealer was solely to prevent my siblings, my brothers and sisters, from struggling and living a hard life. But I was still dealing with a lot of hidden emotions, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain of abandonment. So when I wrote my book, there's a part that I talk about when I begin to relate my father's pain and my pain was very similar. As I got older, I began to understand that our pain is very similar. Where is this pain coming from? Where is this mental hurt coming from? The secret behind hurting Black men really is dealing with the secret that lies behind the person. And oftentimes we misrepresent the secret. We smile when we're really hurting. We're laughing when we're really frowning. We have been taught to put on a facade to make something bad looks good. And so when I came to the part of my book that was called The Secret Behind Hurting Black Men, it goes back to slavery. Listen to how the mindset of a Black man was devastated. Now, I know that some people are saying, well, you should have matured past that. Yeah, you can read books and get better. But what book teaches your emotions to get better? Have you ever gotten mad with somebody and you forgave them, but your emotion says, but we'll never forget what they done? Emotions have the ability to hold on to things and never let it go. So a social, emotional injustice was done to every Black man from the point of slavery. For an example, could you imagine being a Black man and your mother is cooking, your wife is cooking, and the slave master time come in and remove your mother from doing what she was doing? Everyone in the house knows what's going on. The master is borrowing mother for sexual purposes. And the men in the house, the husband, the son in the house, has to deal with an emotional problem, but can't do nothing about it. So they harbor that emotion on the inside, that anger, that rage, that bitterness, because they seen an injustice. They seen something being done that should not have been done. And so we learned that through the years, a lot of Black men, we hold on to that social injustice. And when we talk about systemic racism, systemic crimes being done, it's being done simply to keep that emotional hurt, that emotional connection, to what we come out of. Even though we're here today, we still come out of something from yesterday. And that emotion is what is keeping us connected to yesterday. And it reveals itself through our behavior by rage, hurt, murder, insensitivity. So therefore, when this injustice was done, we had to keep it a secret. It's not anything that you're proud of to go tell a friend or go tell the homeboys down at the gathering place that the master is messing with my mother, and now I think he's messing with my wife, and he got eyes out for my daughter, and there is nothing I can do about it. Well, those who did was hung on trees. They were murdered. They were taught a horrible lesson. In some cases, men was even raped by masters. And so the mothers had a very challenging task to do. Mothers had to get into the ears of their sons and convince them mentally that because you cannot stop something physically doesn't mean that you're a weak man. That's hard to deal with. Mothers encouraging their children, their sons, not to protect them because there's really nothing they can do about it. This is just how it is. We have to accept it, because if they would retaliate, they would lose their lives also. And so the mothers had to whisper into the ears of these gentle giants and calm down the storms. So normally where they would handle something in a rational way, they can't handle it. Mentally dysfunction. And that's what a lot of young men are dealing with today, is mental dysfunction. The cards were stacked up against us, and it wasn't in our favor. In my community, the cards were stacked up against me. I see more hate. I see more violence than I seen love and caring. That was my surrounding. I seen people buying drugs and selling drugs. I seen people having nice things, and I've seen people having nothing to wear. That was my environment, and I was forced to make a decision. And unfortunately for me, I made the wrong decision that caused more hurt, more pain, and more affliction. But I'm so glad for my mother on Sundays that would take me to church and I would hear the word of God. And so these secrets that I wanted to talk about, I took them out on my wife when I got married. I lashed out on her. I lashed out on my children. I lashed out on people around me because there were internal things that I was dealing with that I didn't know how to talk about. Most women say that men are quiet. It's because men are carrying a lot of secrets, a lot of I would say we're insecure. Strong as we are, good jobs, drive nice cars, but we're insecure. There's a part where I bring the Black woman into my book because she was in the struggle with us. And I just got finished explaining to you how it was her that would empower us to not be able to react to an injustice and to keep our calm. And how the enemy would have us to disrespect, to curse, and come against the very tool that God has given the Black man to secure our existence. And I want to say that again because we know that God has given us a helpmate, but we never was told that God was giving us this helpmate to really save us. Because if we are mentally disconnected, locking us up is not going to fix us, because we're living by an emotion that is controlling our thoughts, that is telling us to react the way that the emotion of hurt and the emotion of pain want us to react in. And so we need that woman to speak love, to speak comfortability to us, to encourage us. We need that. And what the enemy has us to do is to disrespect her, to scorn her, to where she abandons her responsibility that God has given her to help us. Because once you become mentally challenged, that means you have to trust somebody other than yourself. You have to trust somebody outside of you. Somebody that's outside of you have to encourage you that you are more than a conqueror. You're not a bum. You're not a drug addict. You're not a drug dealer. You're not a loser. You're going to need that voice that you can hear that outshadows all the other voices in your ear, in your mind, in your heart. And that's why the rap songs and so many songs are given to us that defame and strip down the woman. I tell you, the black woman has to deal with a new era today, multicultural race, where now literally a white woman can be the biological mother of a black child, which now she's in a struggle. No, she cannot walk in your shoes, but she sure is in a motherly place where we have to lend them our voice because they're the mothers of children that's hurting, that's being deprived, that's insecure. This pain we see today on the news is out of control. No one is safe. You cannot go to a barbecue. You cannot go to an amusement park without this raging to escape itself, to express itself. And so I thought to write the secrets behind hurting black men. It's a secret why black men cheat. It's a secret why black men lie. There are many secrets that we as black men, we know. We know. We just want to keep them a secret. Remember, the Bible says that the truth will set you free. Well, you got to want to be truthful about it. And when men get together and expose ourselves and get truthful about it, then God says, I'll send healing and I'll set you free. But it's very hard and it's very difficult to fight past a lot of these challenges of hurt, because it's not masculine for men to express their insecurities. It's not popular for men to cry. These same situations, these same circumstances from slavery is still here today. We're just dealing with it in another way. I felt as though that I could talk about in my book, Slavery Disguised Under the Game. You know, a lot of us are losing our children to this word called game. That means I'm in this game to win it. Snitches get stitches. And when we look at the game, then we realize that the game is just a modern day slavery. It lures you into selling drugs. Then you get arrested and you get a felony, which means you cannot get a job, which means you got to go back on the corners and sell the same drugs, which means now you're incarcerated in a prison, working practically free. I've seen in teaching at the prisons, fathers, sons, and grandsons, all in the same prison. It wasn't so much the physical prison that really concerned me. It was the mental prison. It was that no one sat down at no point in time and discussed some of the issues that would have them to express their behavior that would cause a whole family to become locked up. Going through the same system, being told when to get up, being told when to eat, being told when to go to sleep. Isn't it similar to living in the days of slavery? Being told when to get up, being told when to eat, being told when to sleep. Mental slavery is just as bad as physical. When you look at the mind, the mental mind, the mind was supposed to have us to escape from troubled situations, from troubled times. In the eyes of the minds is the imagination. So we were designed, no matter where you come from, to do better. That's what God put us in. That's what God put in us. He put in a navigation system built within our mind for us to always strive to do better. There's another force that is called emotions. And when a man is not in control of his emotions will always attach itself to a comfortable place. It's like the children of Israel when God called them out of Egypt. And as soon as things got discomfort for them, instead of them imagining to go farther in God, they wanted to revert and go back to slavery. See, it's easy to revert and go back to slavery because you're being controlled. But God never wanted anybody to really control you or to rule over you. And so we realize that most people will go back to a place of incarceration or in bondage, that place where God has called us out of. And what keeps you locked up at that place of Egypt, what keeps you locked up at in the place of bondage is secrets. Nobody wants to be transparent. A secret. And oftentimes, the secrets that we are keeping are the self-imposed secrets that the enemy, which is Satan, had declared war against you. There's a major part in my book. Before we go into physical slavery, we discuss about how Satan declared war on the black man. Well, matter of fact, Satan declared war on the human race, period. We goes into a little talk about how Adam was placed in the garden and Satan had Adam under surveillance. He would watch Adam every day. He would watch how Adam would move. He understood that during the cool of the day that God would leave out of his comfort place. He would step out of eternity and he would visit Adam at a precise time. When the wind would gently blow and the breeze would run through the trees, there was the presence of God. And Satan had to watch that. You see, when Satan rebelled against God, God put him out of his presence. Satan no longer had the privilege and the access to just enter in boldly whenever he wanted to. And so when God created Adam in his own likeness, of course, Satan was very jealous. And Satan had one thing in his mind, is I will cause man to fall against God. And so in my book, it would talk about how Satan had Adam under surveillance. And one day as Satan would go on his journey, he was not privileged to see that God called a deep sleep to come on Adam. And when Adam went to sleep, God took a rib out of Adam and God gave him a helpmate. And when the enemy saw Adam's relationship with Eve, he said to himself, finally, there's a way I can get Adam to fall. Finally, there's a way I can get Adam to turn against God. And he declared war on Adam. And Adam never knew it. Adam never was giving any warning about Satan or Lucifer, who he was, how he sinned, when he fell, how come he fell. He was never giving any information on Lucifer, but yet Lucifer was gathering data and all the information on Adam. He had it out from Adam, and Adam didn't even know it. So Lucifer decided, I'm going to get Eve, the gift that God gave Adam. I'm going to get her to turn on him, and I'm going to get in this fight, and I'm going to make this fight personal. Watch this. The first murder was not based upon racism. The first murder that was recorded in the Bible was two brothers, Cain and Abel, living under the same roof, playing the same games, probably sleeping in the same bed, raised by the same parents. And one day, one brother murdered the other brother. Had nothing to do with racism, more so prejudice. same kinfolks killing each other. The first mother to lose a son to murder, to death, was Eve. So we can trace this hatred. We can trace the bitterness that Satan has towards mankind all the way back to the days of Adam and Eve. From that point on, Satan have always disguised and always planned ways on how he can cause division, how he can cause hurt and frustration, because he was jealous. Yes, Satan was jealous. Could you imagine for the first time God created a helpmate for a man? Throughout all eternity, none of the angels was ever given a helpmate. They were never given a companion. It's like God declared that as great as he wasn't good enough for Adam. Adam needed more. Or perhaps that God was so mentally and emotionally connected to Adam that he would give Adam whatever Adam needed, even if Adam didn't have the capacity to ask for it. However it goes, when Satan saw that God did things for Adam that he never did for no one else, of course he was jealous. In that day, jealousy was birthed as a tool and a weapon to use men against men. And so we deal with racism. We deal with not just the racism, we deal with the entity, how the enemy would use racism to control another race because he was jealous that God favored a race, that God favored mankind by giving him gifts and talents and ability. One of the abilities that God had given men was that whenever a man would call God, God would come. These tools, Satan had to come up with other distractions so that men never understand that they have the capability to call on the name of God and God would come. Satan understood that when Adam noticed that he was naked, the first thing that came upon Adam was shame and guilt, and he covered himself. He was ashamed. He thought that he could keep a secret from the omniscient God, the all-knowing God. So he covered himself in a fig leaf so that he could not be exposed. And so Satan at that point in time saw that if I can get men to keep secrets, cover themselves under lies and extortions, I can blind them from ever coming clean with God. So we need people in this day and time to sound the trumpet, to expose secrets. And these secrets has really devastated the black race in more ways than one. Not just mentally, socially, physical bondage, physical slavery. We talk in the book about gifts. You know, God always make ways out of no ways. For every curse, there's a gift. God has gifted us to escape the wrath of every curse. You know, another scripture will come to my mind. For God so loved the world, he gave us a gift. We were cursed. We were supposed to die shameful. We were supposed to die with the secrets of Adam, the secrets of Cain. We were supposed to die with those secrets. We were sentenced to die with those secrets. But here comes God making a way out of no way. For God so loved the world, he gave us a gift, his son, that whoever believes on him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Isn't it amazing how God says, I just want to uncover what's going on. If I uncover it, then you have to expose it. If I uncover it, then you have to show it. And the secret behind hurting black men is about black men coming together, acknowledging with accountability what's been done. It's been done to us without us asking it. The enemy declared warfare on us without us declaring warfare on him. But we are now responsible for what's been done to us. And we are responsible on retaliating. We are responsible for fixing ourselves. We are responsible for exposing every secret that will keep us in bondage. Secrets of the hurting black man. It's time for black men to begin to become men. Social, mental men. Loving men. And all we got to do is expose the secrets that the enemy deposited into our emotions to get victory. It's just that simple. And so the secret behind hurting black men is going to challenge you in every area. It's going to reach departments and components in you that have been locked away for a very long time. It's going to bring about conversations that most people don't feel comfortable talking about. And understand this, that if your healing is in clapping your hands, the enemy is going to make sure that you never want to clap your hands. If your healing is simply running, the enemy is going to make sure that you hate running. Our victory is just exposing the secrets. That's it. It's just being truthful about it. Because when secrets are moved out of the way, they can call on God and God comes. See, secret stops you from being authentic. Secret will keep you in a fraudulent, phony place. In other words, God is coming here and you secretly moved over there. So you really can't get no help. We talk about in the book about, it's a very part that's real dear to me, is about the process of how God has given us gifts. I know that we talk about how the white man have enslaved us, but the white man, the enemy declared war against him also. He was just as much as enslaved as we were. It's just the fact that the European man misused his gifts. I want to spin it around. In the book, we deal with the solution of how we fix this thing here. And the solution is that the European man, sure enough, is an administrator. In other words, the European man, he came to America. He befriended the Indian. He killed the Indian. And he stole America. That is a fact. But then he went to Africa. And he saw the Africans working their gift, building monuments, doing things that just normal people couldn't do. And we would teach our sons our crafts. And so what happened is that we eventually sold our own people into slavery. And when the European man saw that we were dysfunctional and there was no loyalty, he then began to decide to steal us. But he stole us and he brought us over to America and kept us as slaves as we cultivated and built America. But in my book, we flipped that around, that if he could have kept the Indian here, because the Indian was his brother, and if he could have recruited his other brother over Africa and then brought us all together, couldn't we have built something great together? Couldn't we have done this out of love and out of brotherhood together? For an example, in Babel, God says that the men came together and they built a tower to the point where the tower reached heaven. It wasn't that God was mad. It's just that God was impressed. He says, listen, when men come together, there is nothing they can't do. When men come together and when men work their gifts together, there is nothing that they can't do. But Satan says that if I can divide them and have them fight against each other and war against each other, then guess what? they will never come together as one, function as a human race, and achieve excellence. So the secrets behind hurting black men, it goes deep. When you see my cover, you're going to notice that there are police officers. They're not just drug dealers, because don't you know that police officers are black men that hurts too? I'll give you a point on how I know police officers hurt. We live in a day and time where when you turn on the news, police officers are still killing black men. Back in the days of slavery, it was acceptable because there was no other black police officers. Today, we have other black police officers on the police force, and white police officers are still killing black children. Never have we ever heard a black cop riding up and blowing a white child brains out, or going in the wrong house and killing an innocent white child. It doesn't happen. Here's what's alarming, the mental part about it, is that a lot of these black cops, no attack against them, just speaking. Some of them are pastors, deacons, and ushers. Some of them are biological parents of black boys and girls. The cry out of injustice really shouldn't come from without. It really should come from within. Like in the days of slavery, they had a saying called the house nigger. As long as he was safe, then everything was safe. That same mentality lives on today, and it hides underneath prejudice, not racism. Racism is when another race or color hates you. But prejudice is when your own kind hates you. And that's what we're dealing with today when we're seeing black on black crimes. Black kids blowing out the brains of other black kids and not caring. Secrets. The hurt has surpassed anger. The hurt has surpassed being mad. And the hurt has promoted itself to instantaneously rage. The secret of being deprived, having no father home, mother on drugs, have reached the climax level of rage, hurt, dysfunction. The root of it is secrets. When black men get together and sharpen up black men, the Bible will say iron sharpens iron. When black men get together and expose some sores that just has scabs on them but never healed, underneath the scab is a fresh sore, still wounded by the same sore. And we convinced ourselves to pretend that there's no pain because you can't see it. It's covered by a scab. But as you begin to remove layers of that scab, you'll see that that scar, that sore, is just as fresh as the day it had been there. The secret behind, hurting black men, police officers, cops, judges, football players, basketball players. We all suffer from it. And that's why we all need to collectively come together and talk about it. Exposing our secrets, just telling the truth. And God gave a universal rule that the truth will set you free. In other words, if the truth sets you free, then a secret keeps you in bondage. We've been in bondage too long. We see what the pressure of bondage does. It's a pressure pot, and it boils over and it explodes. And we're dealing with that today. The pressure pot has blew up and have exploded right in our laps. And the only way we can deal with it is begin to talk about the causes of it. I want to give you some information on how you can connect with us and how you can pre-order your book, your copy of The Secret Behind Hurting Black Men. With this book, we're going to do a follow-up on my radio show on WWDB, and most likely it'll probably be on a Wednesday where we'll begin to talk about it, get groups to call in, talk about it, talk about solutions, get people connected with the right people that can be able to sow in some of these young people's lives. It's a part of my book where it says, where we hug people. And that hug is not a physical coat, but it's a spiritual coat. It's a coat that sends off a aura of we've been there, we escaped that, we overcame that, and we're coming back to help you. And it's a hug. You know, Jacob gave his son a colorful coat, but we're giving each other hugs and we're embracing each other to pull each other up and to pull each other out. And so we want to be able to have dialogue with solution on how we can better ourselves, because truly we're hurting. We also have games on how to build up character. You know, I always tell women that you're the first line of defense. Your son today, your baby boy today, is somebody's husband tomorrow. Your baby boy today is somebody's father tomorrow. And so there are things that you can do to be able to build his character, to sharpen his skills to being a provider. We have a lot of information on that in our book. It's just so much in the book that I'm just not able to cover, but it is a great read. I've cried. God have opened up, hurt things in me that I've hid. You know, getting saved. Here's one thing I learned about getting saved. God does heal you, but in the healing process, he opens you to emotions. Down, you got to deal with emotions that you suppressed, emotions that you hid, and emotions that you kept secret. So that's why God wants us to talk about them. Listen, we're good at talking about scriptures and addresses to scriptures on what he did to Paul and David. But God wants to do a work in you. And in order for God to do a work in you, we got to talk about it. You can pre-order your book at our PayPal, Rightly Dividing the Word of Truth. That is the PayPal, Rightly Dividing the Word of Truth. You could communicate with us, get your pre-orders in at theblackmanhurt@gmail.com. Once again, theblackmanhurt@gmail.com. We want your feedback. We want to start dialogue. We really want to start a movement on how we can heal. I want to say this before I let you go. God saw a generation of people that was lost, and they was keeping secrets till their heart was closed against him. And they did sin, and it didn't bother their hearts. In other words, they sinned willfully. And what God said he's going to do is, I'm going to die, and I'm going to expose who I am so that you can know who you are. If I die for you, that means that you have self-worth. If I die and if I'm crucified for you, that means that you was worth it. Black men, you are worth telling secrets that have kept you bound. And that's why we declare, we talk about God, because when he died on the cross, he brought us back to himself. That's why he died on the cross, so that he can bring us back to him. And we can talk to him and enter in and talk boldly about what we are dealing with. Well, I think I'm out of time. Is there any questions about the book? How you doing? Who's that, Bernice? Reverend Reverend Stevens. Thank you, Helen Robinson. And once again, like I said, when the book is out, we're going to have a radio talk show, a segment on it where we really talk about solutions, because everybody's talking about problems, but there's no solutions. And here's the thing: for every curse, God has given us a gift. So gifts are to overcome curses. You understand what I'm saying? Let me share this with you. If you look at an NFL owner, right? They're billionaires, right? And what an NFL owner does is he looks for gifted young people. It doesn't matter your income. He's just looking at your gift. And what he does is they recruit the young men that is gifted to run, to jump, to catch a ball, to shoot a basketball, and they recruit them based upon their gifts. And that young man makes millions of dollars, and he's able to free up his family. So if all the gifts work together, it'll work together for the good of men. Our website, once again, is The Black Man's Hurts. The Black Man Hurts. I'm sorry. HURTS.com. Any questions? The website to purchase the book. Which one is it?
Right there. The Black Man Hurts.
Okay. I did. Okay, awesome. The Black Man Hurts. The Black Man Hurts at gmail.com. Thank you very much. Is that Lucille Green? Mm-hmm. God bless you. Thank you very much. So once again, the book deals with the black man, and there's no black man without that black woman. So when it's from the healing, remember the Bible says that the woman is the helpmate, and a woman is the only creature that God has made for man that can make a short man feel tall, a tall man feel short. That's just the ability that God had put in that voice of that woman to be able to speak to the emotions, to succumb every emotional obstacle that a black man have. God has equipped that black woman or the woman to be able to talk and to minister to the man. In other words, there's places God ain't gonna go. So therefore, he gave Adam that helpmate to speak that word. And God says, if that helpmate speak about things, if that helpmate see it, and that helpmate bring it to me, and if that man is connected to me, God says, I'll move the unmovable. I will fix the unfixable. All he got to do is just talk, expose it. That's the covenant that God has made with men. But the enemy says, stay in the closet. And isn't it amazing that everybody else is coming out the closet with their stuff? And black men, we still want to keep things confined. As I was telling you, on this website, we're going to also have games that helps black men express their emotions. A lot of women say men don't talk a lot. Well, before you marry them, before you get committed, we got some games that you're going to play with them, and it helps them to identify some of the strongholds, because all strongholds is in different places dealing with men. Some strongholds are verbal. Some strongholds are the way they think. Some strongholds are they can have the most greatest ideas and vision, but never move out on them. So the enemy have us under incarceration in different areas in our mind by strongholds. And one of the gifts that I believe my book is going to offer is that it's going to teach men how to show God where their personal deficiencies are. Sometimes you got to let God know where your pain at. Sometimes you got to show God where that closet is. He knows where the closet is because he's omniscient. But you have to show him that some closets are hid deep, deep, deep around the corner in the back of the heart, and you got to be willing to expose it. In other words, we have to be willing participants in revealing to God and to our loved ones where we hurt at. The most dangerous thing is people to think you're well and put sick people over well people. Now, we can take control over our emotions. No, I got another minute. In my wrapping it up is a lot of us as black men are dysfunctional because, once again, emotions was never created to think for you. Emotions was never created to dictate to you. Emotions are only there to connect you to the supernatural. In other words, when God gives you a vision, you are to become emotionally connected to the vision that God has given you. So it says faith without works is what dead. And so your emotions is what pulls it out of the spiritual realm and get it manifested in the natural realm. That's the emotion job. It's just to connect you to things that God wants you to be connected to. It's never to dictate or to control you. And the secret of hurting black men, we're going to reverse that. Emotions is not going to control us, but principle and values will. I want to thank you for tuning in. Once again, you can order a copy of your book from the blackmanhurts.com. You can do a pre-order by PayPal, Rightly Dividing the Word of Truth. You can also tune in with us every Wednesday from 3 to 4, Rightly Dividing the Word of Truth. You can tune in every Thursday on Preach the Word Worldwide Network at 2:30. You can get that on what is it called? Hulu, Ruko. You got a smart TV, you can find us on there and come grow with us. God bless y'all. Thank you very much for this platform.